All right. Well, welcome to episode 30 of Distress Deals Decoded, my folks, where real estate problems meet real solutions, brought to you by our friends here at Asset Resolution Advisors. Today, we're going to dive into another issue about the emerging opportunities for investors and agents. We're going to go decode an actual real life deal so that you guys have a better understanding of how to look at these deals, how to analyze, how to underwrite it. Where is the underlying opportunity? So we're joined here by our colleagues, Patrick Butler. Say hi, Patrick.
Hey, welcome everybody. We're
Let's
excited
go.
about this one, by the way, because this was a
Yes.
missed opportunity.
Yes, sir. And Steve Schiller.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So yes, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and review this lost opportunity. Unfortunately, the investor did not know how to underwrite it, and there was massive opportunity, massive margin in the deal, missed because of lack of knowledge and understanding. So, Steve, walk us through this framework. What happened in this deal? Where did this deal even come from?
Yeah, so we had an investor who was looking to figure out what to do with this property, had a deal. They looked at what they thought was the ARV in the mid 400s. This was July of last year, July, August of last year. And they determined based on their buy box, by their spreadsheet, I don't know what they were using, but something they've used, right? As an experienced person, and came up with a value at 300, which we submitted as a short sale. Property was, I think it was owed in the 420s, 430s is what the payoff was. So definitely a short sale across the board. Um, Bank went through it, looked at it, said, no can do. We think the value is much higher. Wouldn't tell us what it was, but as we were looking at it, we said, well, it was distressed. It was in rough condition, but it probably, again, ARV was in the mid 400s. This was probably 60, $70,000 off that. So, we figured the value probably would need to come in somewhere between 360 and 380, somewhere in that range. We did put it in retail, got an offer. Our offer came in at 370, and that was still declined because we were too close to the foreclosure timeline at that point, which was the end of December, beginning of January. They just said, we're going to close, we're going to foreclose, and we're going to go sell the property on our own. And that's exactly why they did. And if you wanted to know, they ended up foreclosing. They ended up selling that property to a third party for $378,000. So that 370 was pretty close, just not close enough given the time frame. So, had we got that offer earlier, back in June, July, August, when the first came in, we probably would have gotten that 370 approved, which is really lesson number one, right? Timing is everything. So, can we get bigger discounts? Yes, it's not much, but $8,000 is $8,000. And we probably could have gotten the deal sold at 370, not 378, but that was not our initial offer. And then here we are, we're now moving to foreclosure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. But and from my just so that we can get ahead of this, but I think that that property sold for 700,000.
It did. It sold for $700,000 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so let me show you guys a couple of things real quick. Steve, I'd like to support what you're talking about. So I've got two documents. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everybody here.
Yep.
La-di-da. Come on, baby. All right, so the one document, can you all see it?
Yeah.
Okay, is the CMA that was provided by one of the agents who worked with the investor. All right. And his CMA value came in pretty darn close, 353, 595 to what the lender's value is. Remember, it was 378 is what they ultimately sold at foreclosure. Here they found the ARV, and this particular documentation shows it as an RVM. But anyway, the after repaired value at 558. Now, remember, we came back with a different number. I'm going to share those docs with you as well. But the property was listed at 429, and as Steve mentioned, we got a retail offer from a third party bidder at 370. Unfortunately, it was too close to the foreclosure date, and the lender took the property back. So that's one document. The other document that I'll share with you, which just supports what we're talking about here. It ended up selling for 378 at foreclosure, and this was in December of 2025. 6 months later, the person that bought it at 378 sold it for $700,000. And we're going to talk a little bit about the economics on this, but I do want to show you something. Here's the MLS from the foreclosure sale, right? Because the lender had it listed as well. This is the house in its as is condition. There are only exterior photos, so this one's important. But let me show you what the thing turned into after it was rehabbed. Pretty big difference, right? And so it just lawn, paint, new roof, whatever. All of these things came into the as repaired value. And I think one of the lessons that we're going to talk about here today is exactly that. Understanding what the as repaired value really can be in one of these properties, because the ARV on the CMA was 535. It actually sold for $165,000 more. So let's talk
Right.
a little bit about that as well.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the lessons here, right, that we want to talk about that's really, really important when you're going into the distressed market, right? The first part here is we have a lot of real estate investors that end up trying to worry about the operational aspects of all this. So they're trying to figure out, how am I going to make my money? What's the short sale? How long is it going to take? And they're going through those pieces. At the end of the day, this goes back to the most simple piece of the puzzle, which is what's going to be the profit margin? What is the ultimate exit? What is this worth, right? It's one of the things I tell a lot of the real estate investors we work with is how much are you going to make out of it, right?
Mhm.
If you're going to make enough money out of this, then it's worth going through the trouble of trying to figure out what the exit is.
Yes.
But if you have, for instance, if your exit is 500, right, or 470, and you're having to buy it at 370, there's not much margin there. Yes, there's something in the deal, but you're not going to want to go through a lot of work and a lot of a lot of angst to get to that exit strategy. In this case, it was the exact opposite, and that's what was really missed was that the ARV was much higher.
Yep.
And if you look and you dug into the deal and you figured out rather than just taking like for instance, Patrick, you looked at an automated value and it said 558. That's great. That's a good starting position, but that's not doing your due diligence.
Mm-mm.
And you
Nope.
have to dig into the neighborhood, understand. We've seen
Yep.
it go both ways. We've seen ARVs that come in at 558 and then you find the neighborhoods, that's probably really more like 475.
Yep.
And then you have these other ones which come in at 700. That was one of the key things that was missed here and a very important piece because there was enough spread in this deal to make it work.
Steve, that's so important. And lazy, I feel like Forrest Gump. Lazy is as lazy does. By shortcutting the valuation, which guys, that's the most important thing is the valuation. It's a house that's got stuff wrong with it. We get that part. But the before and after valuation makes all the difference in the world. And it's not just comps because comps are yesterday's news. And there's trends. It could be going up, it could be going down. There are also things that are occurring within the neighborhood. There was that property on the West Coast, Steve, that we were looking at, and there was an entire trend for people buying these homes, tearing them down, and building mini McMansions. So the comp valuation was really skewed compared to what the potential is. So investors, really take some time, talk to your peeps out
Yep.
there, talk to a couple of realtors about what that really looks like because that can make all the difference. We're dealing with an exact similar case right now, today, with another investor that's going through the exact same machination. So we're hoping that we can use this example today to help them get on track. So I just thought that was important to share.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, me doing this for the last 10 years, that ARV is absolutely, for me, it's absolutely everything. And then I work backwards from there, right? It's like,
Mhm.
I know that we have a lot of technology. I know that we have, a lot of aggregating sites like home.com and Zillow and a plethora of other sites that give you estimated evaluation. But again, even these computers, they don't know street by street. What if you're in a busy street? What if maybe you're in a cul-de-sac and you have, an extra large lot and it's evaluating it as 500,000 because everybody else sold for 500,000, but they didn't take into account those attributes to the property that increase the value significantly, right? And so, like you said, getting with a realtor, getting CMA reports, doing your due diligence, knowing the streets, knowing exactly where you're at can make or break a deal. I mean, this is a huge loss. It's a
Yeah.
huge loss.
Well, especially when it went to foreclosure and sold to
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
and I think one of the things that we also want to make sure everybody out there understands, especially real estate investors, is that this wasn't simple. We're not saying that this was a simple transaction at the end of the day. It did take, right, somebody to understand the ARV. They had to understand the final ARV. They had to see that they needed to fix up the property and how much it would cost and evaluate that. That's not easy, but there are expert people in that, right?
Mhm.
The flipper probably had to get some financing.
Mhm.
And where did you get the financing and how much was it? And so these are all little pieces that they needed to put all together. And for those of you who don't have every piece, don't make the determination of, oh gosh, I can't do this deal because I don't
Yeah.
have all the pieces. That's what we're here for. That's what asset resolution is here for. We're here to help you. If you want to do the deal, we can connect you to these different vendors and these different people who can help you with lending and who can help you with repairs and things like that. Or if you don't want to do it, we also can connect you to people who do want to do it, and there's still some profit, there's still some revenue to be generated off that. So there are various ways to make money off these things. The key factor is finding it and then identifying that, hey, I've got a deal here.
So here's a question, and I'll ask both of you, Juan and Steve. So we know the numbers now, and looking back, would this have been a decent wholesale deal? It was a short sale. So we know there's the issue of you've got to close and all that stuff, or a novation or something to that extent. Would it have been something that could have been done by the investor? Would they had to have closed and then sell the property again as a rehab?
No, I mean it probably wouldn't have been a big assignment fee, but it would have been significant. It could have been at least a $25,000 assignment fee. Um, because somebody would, if you think about it, I mean it's a $700,000 sale. The
Mhm.
property, I don't know, maybe the repairs are, like you said, 260,000. So when you back those numbers up, an investor should have been able to pay, I think the debt on this one was how much, Steve?
Well, the total debt was like 420, 430,
Yeah, so if we could have gotten that down some, someone
which
would
it
have
was.
been
It
able,
sold for 378.
right.
Yeah.
So at 400, somebody would have bought it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand? Somebody would have bought this as a wholesale deal at 400,000.
And I think to your point, Patrick, that's exact right. There are different ways, right, to generate revenue off this, which I think is really what the important part is. So,
Mhm.
the ultimate end fix and flipper, and to what Juan's point here is, could this real estate investor bought the property at 370, 378, then done a wholesale innovation, whatever you want to call
Yep.
it, to a
Hmm.
fix and flipper for 400?
Mhm.
Probably, right? And you
Yeah.
make that 20 grand. And that's also why in our previous podcast we talked about early, right? 378 versus 370, that $8,000 makes a difference in what you turn in your profit, right? It turns the profit an extra 8 grand. So yes, you can do it. Yes, you can buy it and wholesale it. Or maybe you partner with a fix and flipper who then gives you, profit margin. Or there are just a lot of ways to, I think, dice it up and to
Yep.
to to get revenue rather than, oh, if I can't get it for 300, I'm out, which is what
Yeah.
happened.
Right. And by the way, another option would have been to sell it to an end user using a rehab loan, like a Fannie Mae or an FHA. Well, a little high price for FHA, but a Fannie Mae rehab loan could have been a great end user deal as well. So there are lots of strategies that can be potentials. And Steve, to your earlier point, how much brain damage do you want to engage? Are you just in it to flip deals? Great, then you make a little bit less money. Or if you want to take it to the last penny, there are ways to skin the cat that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, so what is the I guess the final opportunity for this from the economic standpoint? Like, well, I guess what's the biggest takeaway? What's the biggest lesson that we should have segmented from this?
Yeah, I mean we learned I think we learned some lessons, right? Number one, and it's something we're employing quite frequently now, which is we don't want real estate investors to give up if it doesn't fit their buy box,
Hmm.
right? The most important thing, and we keep talking about it the last few weeks, is you found the deal, work the deal. Even if you make a little versus a big thing, work the deal because you're going to come across the big ones. This was one of the big ones, right? This is one of the things we talk about of, gosh, this could have been $100,000 plus profit deal. Um, and that's probably my biggest takeaway is don't give up on deals, right? I think the investor got a little bit caught up in the short sale aspect of it, right? Oh,
Mhm.
how's it going to work? What's the number going to be? Am I going to be able to make this? And rather than focusing on his part of it, right? On their part of, hey, I know the ARV is, X. If I can get this anywhere in between here, lower than 400, I can make money off this. And
Yep.
sometimes it's a matter of I don't want to do the fix and flip. I want to do like, and let me give you an example, right, of how flexible and how you need to be is, okay, I know based on my numbers that if I get this at 400, I'm probably gonna have to go find a fix and flipper who will just pay me some two, three, four, $5,000 buyer premium, and they'll go fix and flip it and make their 100 grand, right? That's not my deal. If I get it for under 400, then maybe I can do a wholesale novation type deal where I can get 20 or $30,000 assignment fee. And if I get it even lower than that, maybe I figure out how I'm going to do the work myself. So
Mhm.
it's really being flexible, knowing what your top number is, and then having those various exit strategies to then know, do I do A, B, or C?
Yep. And let's add to that list. So excellent. Then mistakes. Number one, low ball offer to the short sale lender. 303 low ball that dragged on for not long, but several months. So it ate up several months leading up to the foreclosure sale date. So time is never on anybody's side in these deals.
Right.
So two mistakes, low ball offer, let the clock burn so that by the time the retail buyer came in at a price that probably would have been accepted by the lender at 370, the lender said, now we're inside of our 37-day window.
Sure.
Forget it. We're just going to foreclose on this, which they did. And 4 months after that, they made 8,000 more dollars. So that was probably a wash for them financially as far as the 370 and the 378.
Mm.
And this is a perfect proof of exactly what we keep telling. Lowball offers
Hmm.
are a big problem. We put in a lowball offer and we did not get any type of information back from the bank. They didn't say,
Right.
hey, we're going to counter you at 370. They just said
Yes.
303. This is
Forget it.
probably worth
Yep.
more than 370 or 380 or 390. I'm not even going to bother.
And
And they
Steve, you
didn't.
are so right about that because that one piece of information, had it been obtained earlier, could have made the entire difference on the exit strategy, which of course, as we've been talking about, there are several exits here that the only one that was envisioned by the investor was not sufficient based on the numbers, and so they let it go away. It's a six-figure mistake for
And
sure.
let me ask you, Juan, a question, which I understand investors have buy boxes and they kind of get blinders on, right? They don't want to do things. But like walk everybody through. Had the investor put in an offer at 360 or 365, walk through how that's not locking them in. It's not, if you walk through like that and walk through that, if they did their numbers right, it wasn't going to be detrimental. It was just going to be a good starting point.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, the thing is that Unfortunately, there's not enough education, and we're trying to do our very best to get that to these folks. They don't understand the whole short sale process period. They think that, they're not allowed to make an offer. Sometimes they're afraid that they may have to offer too much, or that they're going to have some kind of competition if it's going to be on the market, or that if they submitted a low ball offer or a very low offer, that it's not they can't change their mind, or they can't go back and counter and say, okay, well, the bank came back actually at 380. They think that there's no chance anymore, right? So it's just like it's not just a denial. It's not just a, one way of doing it. Like, no, you first of all, timing is everything. You gotta submit the deal, right? You gotta submit the deal early. Let's
Hmm.
work through the process early. Go ahead and do your numbers, do your due diligence, and submit your offer.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, in the beginning stages, the bank is gonna come back with their appraised amount,
Yep.
their offer, and then you can decide whether it makes sense for you or not.
Yeah.
And now let me ask Patrick some questions
Yes.
real quick. Sorry
Okay.
to take this over, but so from a real estate perspective for our real estate investor folks, as when you're going to put an offer, what are some of the strategies you can use so
Hmm.
that you can back out of a deal if it just doesn't work and you're balancing out the I don't want a lowball offer because they might not counter. I
Yeah.
want to go up higher, but if I went too high by accident, then what are some of the strategies that they can use in an offer document to be able to back out?
Yep. So you're reading my mind. I was gonna say this. So, and even though we kind of hate this at Asset Resolution Advisors, and I'm going to explain why. So, the property inspection, for example, there are two strategies on doing property inspections. We personally love it when the inspections are done based on the effective date of the contract. In other words, let's call it 10 days from the signing of the contract. Then the investor can say yay or nay. The inspections came out as I expected. I want to proceed with the deal, or they didn't come out as I expected. I'm going to cancel the deal. The other strategy is to perform inspections after the short sale approval. Now, from our perspective, why we don't like that a lot of times is because we can have a deal approved and then the investor may be unrealistic and say, oh, I'm just going to back out because of inspections. Well, our job then would have to be to resell the property, but we then again know the price and it's already approved at that number, so it makes it easier. But Steve, to answer your question, the investor could have done that, come in at whatever price we or they felt would have been there. By the way, the as is value from the CMA at 358 probably would have been a great starting point
Right.
for that offer. And yes, if they put the inspections after the fact, and especially, by the way, if they're good friend investors of ours and they're part of our community, we will do a little extra for them. We'll bend over a little further backwards, even at our mature young ages, doing so. So yeah, there are ways to structure that. Again, that's part of what we all bring to the table is the collective knowledge of how to best work these deals. At the end of the day, though, what we all want to see is somebody making money. The
Sure.
homeowner getting out without having to face a foreclosure, real estate professionals making their earnings, and the investor making something, whatever that best case scenario is. So this is a great example of many ways to carve this deal up and make money for everybody.
Absolutely. Look, for me, the biggest takeaway is get these deals on time. Get them as fresh as possible. You have more flexibility, okay, to get this thing done, and we can work through it much faster. Do have enough time for due diligence because again, this came to us late and they ran out of time. They ran out of time. This could have been solved, right? So to finish this podcast, because this is a phenomenal opportunity for people to learn, right? If you got a deal that looks impossible, don't walk away from it. Okay. Submit it to Asset Resolution Advisors. Let us take a look at it. Rather it be a short sale, bankruptcy, title issues, probate, lien problem, anything that's kind of messy and dirty, something you've never seen before, we're happy to underwrite it for you, identify the best exit strategy so we can put some money in your pocket. Sometimes the most complicated deals come with the most profit, guys.
Mhm.
So if you enjoyed this podcast, if you enjoy this channel, anything that we said, any takeaways, please make sure to like, subscribe, share it with your colleagues, friends, okay, neighbors. come support us. Come join our school community where we have more information on how you guys can underwrite deals better, become more profitable in your businesses, become a better real estate agent, become a better wholesaler, investor. Come and join, come and learn, because in the niche is where the profits are, guys. Thank you so much for this podcast, fellas. Any last words from you guys before we jump
Oh,
off?
sure. I think you covered
Awesome.
it, man.
This has been fantastic, guys. See you guys on the next podcast. Take